The bow and arrow, that is correct. I think that was the last one. Was that the last one? I didn't hear you say any. I'm just messing around. How many? Who got all 11 of them? Who got all 11? Raise your hand. There was 11. Only one person? Who got 10? One in the back? Who got 9? 8? 7? 6? 5? So 10 was the high. You got 2? Okay. So what's your name in the back? Alexis? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to do the announcements for you guys. So the first thing is the question cards that Ian handed out last week. If you guys haven't had a question or you haven't asked one yet, please fill one out. It's anonymous. No one will know. This is a very important topic that we're going to be talking about, and so if you guys have any kind of questions, please write them down and we'll address them. Second is we are going to be starting a small group online, and we need to know if Thursdays or Fridays work best for your guys' schedules. It'll be at 4 o'clock, so there'll be more information about that, but we really want to see which day works for you guys before we set anything in stone. And third is the most exciting for me is Fine Arts. So Fine Arts is happening this year, and there's going to be a sign up right over here. There'll be more details to come, but if you guys are interested, you guys need to start thinking about your categories and what it is you guys are going to do, and we're going to get back to you guys with that info as soon as possible, but sign-ups are going to be right over here, and that's it. So the worship team, come up.
Oh, victory, you have won. Victorious, you have come. War was stolen, you brought back to us. Our champion, you fight for us. You made a way where there was none. Our champion, you're strong in us. The debt we owed, you paid in blood. The one in whom we belong. We'll lift our voice, join your song. We were orphaned, now forever yours. champion, you fight for us, and you made a way where there was none. Our champion, you're strong in us. The debt we owed, you paid in blood. We will shout it out from the mountaintops that our God is good. He has overcome. Let all the earth, every tribe and tongue, we will sing it out. He has overcome. We will shout it out from the mountaintops that our God is good. He has overcome. Let all the earth, every tribe and tongue, we will sing it out. He has overcome. Our champion, you fight for us. You made a way where there was none. Our champion, you're strong in us. The debt we owed, you paid in blood. Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, constant through the trial and the change. This one thing remains, yes, one thing remains. Your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. It's your love. And on and on and on and on it goes. Well, it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid, 'cause this one thing remains, yes, one thing remains. Your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. It's your love. I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, and you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I am strong when I think I'm weak, and you say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe, oh, I believe, oh, you say of me. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, and you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I'm strong when I think I'm weak, and you say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe, oh yes, I believe, oh, you say of me, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. Oh, and you have every failure, God. You have every victory. Ooh, and you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I'm strong when I think I'm weak, and you say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe, oh yes, I believe, oh, you say of me, I believe.
So we're getting ready to start tonight this series about relationships. It's got a really creative title. It's called Relationships. I worked really hard to come up with that. But the thing is, you can see right there, we're going to talk about friends, we're going to talk about dating, we're going to talk about parents, and all of those things are going to have an impact on our lives. We'll start that exploration tonight, right? But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to our very identity, the way that we see ourselves, the way that we value ourselves, the things even that we find value in, that has to flow out of a relationship with God as a loving, forgiving Father who looks at us and sees not our flaws and our failures and our mistakes and our mess ups, but he sees a masterpiece. He sees somebody who he loves and values and has chosen to be his own. And this song says, when it says, you say I'm loved when I don't feel a thing. And there's times in our lives as teenagers, it just happens. It's a fact of life where you feel like nobody loves you, right? Maybe you got dumped. Maybe you had a fight with your parent, or maybe you had an argument with your parents or a fight with one of your friends. And you're like, man, nobody even cares about me. God's like, nah, bro, or nah, sis, sorry, I'm going to be inclusive here. I do. I see you. I know what you're feeling. I love you. Or it says, you say I'm strong when I'm feeling weak. And how many times, whether it has to do with friendships or relationships or just the heaviness of life in general, do we feel weak? Do we say to ourselves, man, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. Like if tomorrow is like today, I might just have to give up because I'm just feeling weak. I don't know if I can do it. But God says, hey, I'll be your strength in those moments, right? And so, listen, friends are going to build us up sometimes and they're going to tear us down sometimes. Whether you're dating now or you're going to start dating in the future, there's going to be happy moments. There's going to be hard moments. Parents, they love you, but they just don't understand sometimes. I get it, okay? But God is the one who says, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. I'll never leave you or forsake you. And the Bible tells us that he has experienced every hardship that we have. And yet because of that, we can come boldly to the throne of grace when we need it most. And so tonight, what I want to do is, they're just going to sing this chorus one more time in a minute. Don't start yet. But if you're somebody who's like dealing with hurt or heartbreak, or you're feeling weak, or you're feeling like rejected, or maybe nobody really cares about you, I want you to re-sing this song with us. And I want you to really listen very closely to the words and remind yourself that, hey, this is who God says I am, so it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't even, I'm not saying your feelings don't matter, but my feelings aren't what's true about me. What's true is what God says about me. So whether you want to sing this song with us or you want to just silently contemplate the words, let it remind you tonight that you matter to God.
Ooh, and you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I'm strong when I think I'm weak, and you say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say and I believe.
Hey, God, I just want to pray for those of us here tonight who maybe feel like we don't measure up, like we have fallen short, or like we're too weak, or like maybe we're unloved, or that we're feeling rejection, or some combination of those things. I pray tonight, God, that you would remind us, not just tonight, but throughout the course of our time together this evening, that you'd remind us of how valuable we are in your sight, of how loved we are in your eyes, God, about how you have chosen us just who we are right now. Not some potential future version of ourselves that we hope we can someday be, but who we are right now, God. You've chosen us, you've loved us, you've called us, and you have, not only do you have a plan and a purpose for our lives, God, but you have a love for us that's so great that we can't even comprehend. And you're willing to come in and fill up the gap when we feel weak. You'll be our strength if only we will turn to you and let you do so. God, we thank you and praise you. And in your name we pray. We all said, amen. Hey, you can give our worship team a round of applause really quick as they head off here. So look, we're starting, like I said already a couple times, we're starting a brand new series tonight called Relationships. It's going to last, maybe it's going to last 4 weeks, maybe it's going to last 7 weeks. I don't know. It's going to kind of depend on you guys, okay? And what questions you have and how well we're able to answer those questions from week to week. But we're going to do a couple of new things starting this week, and one of those things is we're going to start hearing from some of our other leaders. I've really been praying and planning for this year, and I feel very convicted that I talk too much on Wednesday nights. All right, y'all hear my voice and see my daggum face all the time, and that's cool because it is a beautiful beautiful face and a velvety voice, and I know that that's wonderful, okay, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to get some different perspectives and hear some wisdom and some insight from some other people other than just me all the time. And so we're going to start every week this series. We're going to have a different leader come up and share a quick story or something they've learned, or I don't even know what they're going to share. They're just going to share something with you about the topic for that week. And we're just going to go in order. At first, we're going to knock out the first 4 weeks. We're just going to go in order of what that says, and then we'll fill in the gaps from there. So today, we're going to be talking about friendships. How many of y'all have at least one friend or have had a friend at some point in the past, okay? And if you are not raising your hand right now, you're a liar in church, because I know, I'm looking at you, I know you have had a friend at least one point in your life, okay? So friendship, it's applicable to all of us, and I'm excited because the very first person to share a story with us in this series is somebody who's a brand new youth leader with us here at Epic Students. This is only her second week here, and she hardly even got to meet anybody last week because she was serving tacos all night. But I'm really excited for you to hear from her, so I want to introduce you to and ask you to put your hands together for, Connor. Come on, Connor, and share your story.
Hey guys, so I'm Connor, and it's really nice to meet all of you, even though I cannot see none of you because of these lights, and so I was not expecting that. But it's so awesome to meet you guys, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. But today I really want to talk about my kind of friendships. I've had what I would call silver friendships and then platinum friendships. So my silver friendships are people that come into my life and then they leave after a certain amount of time, right? But they leave with like a lesson, or they grew me in different ways. But my platinum friendships are, I think of one individual because she's been my best friend since I was like 3. Literally, we grew up together. I'm 22 now, and it is just crazy. But we're in 2 totally separate parts of our lives. So let me explain this really quick. So her name is Allie, right? And she's already a mother-to-be with 2 kids, and she is already married, and she's in grad school, and she has a stable job, like absolutely on the outside, absolutely perfect, right? And then, hi, meet me over here, barely getting by with my bachelor's degree, right? Okay, like barely getting by. And having non-stable jobs, helping my grandmother who has dementia. So my life is a little crazy. But every single time that she came to me, she was like, hey, you know, I'm getting engaged, or I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, that is so awesome, so great. Because I know that even though my blessings are not happening currently right now, or as many as she's getting, I need to be supportive of that. Because there's going to be one point in her life that she's not getting as many blessings, and she's going to support me. So I hope that we can all, because I don't want y'all to wait all the way till 22 to figure that out, because definitely I was jealous at many, many points. Like, God, why not me? Why not me yet? So I hope that you guys can learn before hitting that age that it's okay to support other people, even though you don't seem like you're there yet, if that makes any sense. So, thank you guys.
Work, Mike. There we go. Thank you so much, Connor. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So the other brand new thing we're going to start doing, almost every week. I'm not going to promise you we're going to do it every week because I like to change things up. But we're going to do something called small group check-ins, okay? I want y'all to have the opportunity to get to know one another a little bit. And in this social distancing space, that's very hard to do when you're sitting 6 feet apart from everybody except the people you rode with. And it's a big spread out spot like this. So for the next few weeks at least, we're going to do something called small group check-ins. It's going to happen at different times and for different purposes. Sometimes it will be purely just to be silly and have some fun. Sometimes it'll be to talk about what we've already talked about here on the stage. Sometimes it'll be in the middle of our conversation. And tonight, it's going to be to set the stage for what we're going to talk about tonight. So what we're going to do is for the next 20 minutes or so, counting travel back and forth, we're going to split up into 4 different groups. And leaders, pay attention because I'm going to change the group and location assignments a little bit from what I sent you this morning. So bear with me. And so we're going to change. We're going to just split up into some groups, and we're going to talk about friendship and about some other random stuff, and just get the chance to get to know one another a little bit. And so that's the purpose for it tonight. Again, the purpose for group check-ins will change from week to week. What it looks like will change from week to week. But generally, you'll be in the same group so you can kind of get to know some people. So we're going to start with all of our 9th graders, okay? If you are in 9th grade, I need you to go to the back. There's a bunch of chairs set up in the back foyer, I guess is what that would be called, right there with Ashley and JT. All right, so if you're in 9th grade, just head back that way in there. This is not really a question I intended to ask in the microphone, but where's Braylon, Alexis? I thought I saw her. Okay, so Braylon's already back there for some reason, so grab her, Ashley, when you get back there. All right? Yeah. All right, so 9th graders, head back there. With JT and Ashley, you're going to meet some new people, have some fun. All right. 10th grade and up, you're going to go with Jennifer and I to the gym. The gym is the E-Kids area. So, Jennifer, if you can just start heading that way with them. And then our middle school guys are going to meet in the cafe foyer area with Jeff and Richard. All right, so, Jeff, you can kind of head. If you're watching online, what we're going to do is we're going to pause this for 20 minutes, and we'll be back with the message in 20 minutes. All right, this is kind of an awkward thing. Eventually, we're going to work on getting some digital groups happening if you are watching online. But for tonight, just we're going to put up the coming soon. I guess it's already there. Hopefully, you can hear me, though. And we're going to put that up, and that's that. And then middle school girls. I didn't say middle school girls yet. Middle school girls. Lily, come back. Not Lori. Lily Osterberry. I know there's 2, so you guys are going to have the most fun of anyone. You're going to be in here with Connor and Eileen. All right, everybody, have a seat. What? Oh, okay. Everybody see that? Pretty much. I mean, the board itself, like, is that an angle that you will be able to read it when we get started? All right, cool. So, hey, listen. A few weeks ago, most of you guys know this already, but a few weeks ago, the first week of 2020, whatever year this is now, let's fix that. When I asked you guys to tell me your biggest questions and what you think we should be learning about this year, the topic that probably got mentioned more than any other topic was relationships. When, in fact, you combine things like dating, friendships, parents, relationship with God, all that stuff. When you combine those things together, relationships were the most common question. So, like I said, we're going to invest some time in this thing. I've got an end date where we have to be done with it by, but it's pretty far in the future. So if this thing has to get extended a little bit, then we will. We're going to make sure we answer whatever questions you have, as many of them as we can. Now, for those of you who did submit questions last week, just understand we're not going to answer those specific questions today because they're about a different topic. But when we get to that topic, we're going to answer them. If enough people have similar questions, we will take an entire week of programming or of the service and answer those questions. All right? So even as I'm talking, right, if you have questions about what I'm saying, you're like, man, I don't know if I agree with that, or what did you mean when you said this, or what about that, or whatever else, write those down. When you're done, you can just drop them in that bucket right there. There's sign-up sheets at that table as well, so you can just drop your questions, in that bucket. And at the end, we're going to even have like a panel where we bring a bunch of different people in here, some of our leaders, myself, some other people in here to answer some of your questions that we don't get to in sermon or conversation form here. All right, with all of that said, the last thing that you guys talked about during your small group check-in is the one characteristic that you must have in a friend. So I'm not going to go on and make all the people who are here tell us their characteristic, but I need somebody who's got decent handwriting, and I don't want to make Allie do it again because I make her do it every time. All right, come on. All right, Heather, right? All right, Heather, hold this marker for me. And you're just going to, as people shout stuff out, just write it on the board, okay? All right, so somebody tell me, what was your one characteristic that you must have in a friend? Madison. Honesty. Put it up there. Honesty's a good one. All right, what else? Loyalty. That ain't even one you said. He's stealing somebody else's answer. Alec. Okay, not a criminal. All right, what else? Anybody else? You can say other people's. All right. Communication. All right, Elise, was your hand up? Oh, no, Amber, go ahead. Free-spirited. Video. Okay, gamer. All right, what else? Leaders, you can shout out stuff too. If there's stuff you think should be up there that isn't. Ooh, encouraging. All right. What else? Braylon. Who? Trustworthy. Very good. All right. It's hard to see. Madison again. Commitment or committed. Okay. Understanding. We could put patient up there if we wanted to. Logan, his actual answer was kind. Stealing other people's answers, man. What's wrong with you? All right. All right, you got it, Heather? What's your last one? Patient, kind. Put kind up there. All right. We good? You guys you confident that makes a good friend? We're happy with that? All right, Heather, thank you. You can have a seat. Everybody give Heather a round of applause. Yay. All right, so we got honesty, loyalty, not a criminal. Come on, Alec. Communication, free-spirited, encouraging, trustworthy, patient, kind. All right, we can all pretty much agree that those are good qualities and characteristics to have in a friend. So what I want you to do now is I want you to think of your 2 or 3 closest friends, okay? And if you're like, I don't even have any friends. Yes, you do. The people, maybe you wouldn't necessarily call them friends. Think about it this way. The people you spend the most time with, or the people that you spend the top people you talk to the most, whether online, in person, on the phone, whatever, all right, the people who you spend the most of your time with, or the people you talk to the most. Think about those people. I'm not going to make you stand up and share, well, the first friend's name is Leonard, and the second friend's name. No, we're not doing that, okay? But this is for you. You think about those people, and now I want you to look at this list. And again, this is not something that you're going to verbalize to anybody else, but how many of these characteristics do your closest inner circle of friends have? I'll read them again. Honesty, loyalty. I can't believe I'm going to be reading this every single time, Alec. Not a criminal. Communication, free-spirited, encouraging, trustworthy, patient, kind. How many of those characteristics do your closest friends have? Okay, and now, and again, I don't need you to raise your hand and be like, my friend only has one of those because he's not a very good person. Like, no. Okay, this is for you for now. Now, we're going to flip that, and thinking again about those same friendships, those same relationships, how many of these characteristics do you display in your friendship towards that person? How often are you honest and loyal and not a criminal, and excel at communication and be free-spirited or be encouraging or behave trustworthy or in a trustworthy way? How often are you patient? How often are you kind? Be thinking about those things as we kind of dive into the rest of our time together tonight. Okay, because a lot of times we want people to be our friends who are all of these things and more, right? We could add lots of other things: smart, resourceful, popular, whatever. Maybe not popular for some of us. I'm down with that. Whatever floats your boat. I'm just saying things that other people might add to this list, okay? We could add all kinds of other things. So we want people to be our friends who behave this way, but what way are we behaving toward the people around us? That's one question I want us to think about tonight, okay? But the real big question that I want to ask you, and I want you to think about with me for the rest of our time together tonight, the one question that I want you to have formulated an answer to in your mind for yourself, because it's not a question I'm going to come to you and be like, all right, Chris, tell me the answer to this question. No, this is for you. But the one question that I want you to have an answer for yourself at the end of our time together tonight is this: what kind of influence do your friends have on you? And notice that the question is not, are your friends influencing you? Because the answer is they are. Whether you like it or not, the people that you spend the most time with, the people who you talk to the most, are 100% influencing your life. Your actions, your attitudes, your decisions are all impacted by the people you spend your time with, the people you let into your inner circle, if you will, the people that you give influence to. No matter how many or what kinds of friends that we have, there's one thing that is universally true. Our friends will change us. Help me out, guys, if you're having side conversations. My ADD can't focus well when you're doing that, so just help me out, please. All right? Studies show that people your age, people in their teenage years, act differently when they're with their friends than they do when they're alone. They've even done brain scans that look different depending on whether they're taking the test alone or with friends present. And the brain, if you're with friends, no matter what you're doing, your brain at a chemical level behaves differently. There's even research that shows that people in middle and high school take more dangerous risks when they're with their friends than when they're alone. They're more willing not just to be free-spirited and do what they want to do, but they're like, oh, that's a stupid thing, I'll do it. That's just science. Your friends change you. They influence you, right? I've shared this with some of you guys before. My youth pastor used to say growing up, you are who you hang out with. All right, some of you have maybe heard a quote that says something similar to, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Another guy named Jim Rohn, I don't know how to pronounce his name, he wrote one time that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if any of you are like, man, I'm really starting to be like my parents lately because we've been trapped in the house together, that's why. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Your friends change you. They influence you. They help shape and mold your actions, your attitudes, and even your future. Listen, growing up, when I was in middle and high school, I liked basketball. I liked collecting basketball cards and shoes because of my friend Greg. I was desperate to own a Super Nintendo. Yes, that's how old I am, because my friend Jeremy had one, right? I loved ska music because of my cousin/friend Tara. I shopped at American Eagle because of my friends Kristen and Amber, not because I actually liked the clothes at that time. I played bass guitar because my friend Jeremy, same guy, was a drummer. I missed my favorite band's farewell concert because none of my friends wanted to go with me. They were like 30 miles down the road from where I was at. They wouldn't go with me. I even went on my very first date, not because I was ready, and we'll talk more about this next week, but because all my friends were dating. All right? Now, would I probably have found some of those things on my own? Yes, of course. You can make that argument. It's certainly possible that some, if not all of those things, would have been stuff that happened in my life without them. But I know that that there are elements of my life that shaped me in some significant ways, and those things happened because of the influence of my friends. Because of the people that I chose to surround myself with, to spend time with, the people I chose to give influence to, impacted my life in some very direct ways. And I'm sure that you can think of examples in your own life as well, where you've done things you would not have done if it wasn't for the people around you. Some of those things are good. Some of those things maybe not so good. Hopefully none of them put you in this category. But you have done things you wouldn't have done if it wasn't for the influence of your friends, right? And so you might call this phenomenon peer pressure, because peer pressure can be negative and peer pressure can be positive. We're not going to spend a ton of time on peer pressure today, but it's there. It's real. It's a thing we have to deal with. So you might call this peer pressure. Your parents might call it being a follower. If everybody else jumps off a bridge, are you going to do it too? No, because I can't swim. Anyways, that's kind of how your parents might phrase that. Researchers might call it groupthink, right? When you're in a group, the whole group's going to do dumber stuff than each of the people in the group would do as individuals, because that's just the way that brains work. I call it influence. Influence is defined by the dictionary as the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone. When you are being influenced by someone, that means that they have an effect on your character, your development, or your behavior. And when we choose to be friends with someone, we are subconsciously choosing to give them influence over our lives. We are giving them permission to affect our character, our development, and our behavior. We are handing them the keys to us. Proverbs 12:26 says, the righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. In 1 Corinthians 15:33, the Apostle Paul writes, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Proverbs 18:24 says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. All right, and that's kind of a little bit doom and gloom there, and I'm not saying that your friends are going to kill you, again, unless you're hanging out with people in this category, and that's another conversation for another day. All right, I'm not saying like you're going to be, your whole life may not be ruined because of who you choose to hang out with, but the Bible's not lying when it says one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. Bad stuff happens if you're choosing the wrong people. Bad stuff can happen if you're choosing the wrong people to have influence over you. So Scripture is pretty clear and pretty consistent, because there's several other verses we could pull that we're just not going to look at tonight. It's consistent in making this point over and over. Your friends will influence you so choose them wisely. All right? If you don't get anything else that I say tonight, or anything, you don't remember anything from the conversations we had in groups or any of that other stuff, if you don't remember anything else from when you go home tonight, I want you to remember this one sentence. Your friends will influence you, so choose them wisely. All right, and so you're like, okay, cool. I get it. My friends will influence me. I need to choose my friends wisely. What does that look like? How do I choose my friends before I even get to know them? And once I've chosen my friends, what am I supposed to do when I realize that they're influencing me in a way that isn't necessarily good or healthy? Am I just supposed to walk away? What if I'm not sure that I can make new friends? Then should I just stick with the old friends that I have so that at least I have some friends? Because I don't want to go out and have no friends. And how do I make sure that I'm the kind of friend that can be wise and that a wise person would choose? Listen, you're asking a lot of questions. And I'm going to try to my best to answer as many of those as I can. But again, if I skip over some stuff, if there's some stuff in your mind like, okay, well, what about this? And I don't address that tonight, write it on the card because I want to make sure we address as many of your questions as we possibly can. But what I want to do tonight is I've got down here 4 or 5 different things to look for when it comes to choosing your friends wisely. Okay? And some of these are from Scripture, some of them are practical, some of them are both. But the first one is this: look at how they're living, okay? And I hope this doesn't seem superficial because it's not what I mean, but is it really the best way, it really is the best way to choose your friends is to just look at how they're living. Are your friends or your potential friends living the kind of life that you want to live? Right? Are they heading in the direction that you want your life to go in? And if not, why not? Because what I'm not saying is just write off everybody who's not doing the kind of things you know you want to do. I'm absolutely not saying that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. All right? But look at how they're living. Look at the fruit of their life. Look at what their actions, attitudes, and decisions are producing in their own lives. Then look at who is influencing them. Okay, before you choose to let somebody influence you, pay attention to who is influencing them. Who have they chosen to surround themselves with? Maybe they're not where they want to, Maybe they're not where they want to be yet, but they've surrounded themselves with people who are headed in the right direction. Again, I'm not saying to write somebody off because they're not perfect. No, that's garbage. None of us are perfect. But what direction, how are they living? Who is influencing them? Who have they chosen to surround themselves by? All right? Look at how they spend their time. What are they passionate about? Right? What do they spend the most of their time doing? In what ways will those habits influence you? Because their habits will become your habits, at least to some degree or another, if you're spending enough time with them. Then look in the book of wisdom. All right, we talked about this the very first service of the year. Proverbs is the book of wisdom. Proverbs is full of verses about friendship, so I grabbed a few to kind of add to this discussion. Discussion is the word. And so the first thing that you should look for in a friend is forgiveness over offense. Okay, if somebody's easily offended and they're going to hold that over you all the time and make you feel guilty and bad about yourself and try to control you with guilt and shame, that's not really the kind of friend that you want to have. Proverbs 17:9 says, love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. Proverbs 18:19 says, an offended friend is harder to win back than a fortified city. Arguments separate friends like a gate locked with bars. So I'm not saying that you need to not be friends with somebody if they get offended when you do something harmful to them. No, then that's on you to go back and apologize. But if you got a friend who's like, forever holding on to every single grudge and trying to make you feel bad and always pointing out the negative things and never encouraging you and never being kind or not being patient with you as you grow, then that could possibly be a toxic relationship that you need to find a way out of, right? People who make you earn their friendship are always going to influence you in negative ways. Another thing from Proverbs is honesty over flattery. Okay, it's nice to have people tell us what we want to hear, but it isn't valuable. It isn't constructive, and it isn't helpful, right? Proverbs 24:26 says an honest answer is like a kiss of friendship. You got to remember in the culture in which this was written, people would greet each other with a kiss on each cheek, right? And so an honest answer is like a kiss of friendship. And then in Proverbs 29:5 it says to flatter friends is to lay a trap for their feet. So if you're just saying stuff to somebody, you're basically setting a trap for them. If someone's just building you up and flattering you and never kind of calling you out and telling you, hey, everything you're doing is great and wonderful and lovely, and you're just a great person, you're a perfect guy, I love you, you can never do anything wrong, it's going to trip you up, right? That's not helpful. It's not constructive. If we want the best life we can live, if we want to live up to the standard that God has created us for, we want people who are going to be honest with us, who are going to help us with constructive criticism sometimes. And we have to be the kind of friends who aren't going to get offended by that as well. So look for friends who are going to tell you what you want to hear versus what you need to hear. But another distinction there is not people who are just going around telling you every single daggone thing they think. That's different from honesty, because sometimes, that can just be hurtful or annoying. So draw that line there. And then finally, after you've looked at how they're living, you've looked at who's influencing them, you've looked at how they spend their time, you look in the book of wisdom, you look at, again, kind of the fruit that their life is producing, the direction their life is heading, ask the question. This is a question I've been sharing with you guys for a couple years. It's from a guy named Andy Stanley. And in this context, the question is this. All right? In light of my past experiences, my present circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, is it wise for me to give this person influence over my actions, attitudes, and decisions? In light of my past experiences, the things that I've already gone through in life, the toxic relationships I've endured before now, the difficult situations I've faced, the addictions that I've battled, the struggles that I've dealt with, in light of all of those things and my present circumstances, the school load that I have, the goals that I have for myself, the kind of life that I'm trying to live, and my future hopes and dreams, what I want to do with my life, where I want to go to school, the kind of grades I want to get, the kind of life that I want to live, in light of all of those things, is it wise for me to give this person influence over my actions, my attitudes, and my decisions? Because if and when you choose to enter into a relationship with somebody, that is the decision that you are making. You are giving them influence over your actions, your attitudes, and your decisions. Look, this is not a comprehensive study, so there's going to be gaps in this information. So again, if you have questions, if you're like, okay, but what about? Please let me know, because I want to give you as good of an answer as I can to this. But we're going to move on now to what about if you answer that question before you enter into a close friendship with somebody, it's pretty easy, right? You just kind of move away. I'm not saying you have to shun that person and never talk to them again, but you just make that choice. Like, I'm not going to give you the level of influence over me that's going to affect my actions and my decisions. And what that means is I'm not going to spend as much time with you or be as close to you in a way that would allow you to do that. But what if you start asking these questions and you realize that there's somebody in your life who is influencing you in that way? How do you break up with a bad friend, right? And to me, I think there's a difference between cutting somebody off and limiting their influence in your life. And it can be a fine line to walk. Jesus, though, what I want to be very clear about is Jesus never cut anybody off because of their actions or their sinful attitude. He never looked at anybody and said, nah, bro, you're not good enough to roll with me. What he did is he gave everyone an opportunity to improve, to grow, to change. And when they expressed that they had no desire to change, that's when he moved on. And again, he didn't necessarily reject that person. He just said, you're not going to, if you're not willing to change and grow, then you're probably not going to fit as my follower, as my disciple, as my inner circle, as my friend. Okay, so I'm not up here advocating don't hang out with sinners. That's not what I'm saying, because we're all sinners. We've all messed up. And you have the potential to be a positive influence on the lives of other people. What I am saying is don't give influence to people who are going to drag you down and keep you from the purpose that God has for you, right? So the question asked, maybe a sub-question to that, is it wise, is can I share my life with this person without their influence becoming too strong? And sometimes that answer, bless you, sometimes that answer is dependent on who else is in our inner circle, right? If we've got 4 people in our inner circle who are all headed in the right direction and one person who's still trying to figure it out and making a lot of mistakes, we can have that person as a close friend because we can influence them and pull them in our direction. But if we've got 4 people who are kind of screwing around and like, whatever, then that's going to be kind of become who we are, right? And then eventually there's going to be times when cutting off is required or when just ending a friendship is required. And in those times, I think I could stand up here and try to tell you exactly what that should look like, but I think it needs to look different in every single circumstance. All right, sometimes it just means being cordial but not close. Sometimes it means having a conversation with somebody saying, listen, man, I love you and I care about you, but I can't have you in my life until, you've done these things because you are having a negative influence on me. And again, if you have some specific questions about that, we'd love to answer those. But when cutting off is required, it's going to be hard. And it's going to be like not something that you really want to do. It's difficult, but you have to be willing. And I love what Connor shared is that not every friend is meant to be around forever, right? Some friends come in and you hang out and you learn some things from them and they learn some things from you. Maybe you just learn what you don't want in a friend. Maybe you learn from that friend something else you need to put on this list because it impacted you in a way that you didn't like. Maybe you learn some great things from those friends. Maybe you learn a combination of both. But not every friend is meant to be around forever. And that's okay. It is okay for friendships to change and morph and even end. And when you're doing it in the context of what's the wise thing to do for you, God will always bless it as long as you're doing it not out of spite or out of judgment, but out of a desire to be the person that God has called you to be. All right? And I've got some notes here about how you can be a good friend. We're not going to be able to get to them tonight, so we'll save them for maybe another series in this, or another week in this series, or another time. But I do want to just challenge you. Many of you have heard of this exercise before, but if you can write this down if you want to do it later. But if you go to 1 Corinthians 13, it's called the love chapter, but it's not really romantic love. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not self-seeking. There's lots of other stuff. I don't have it all memorized, okay? A great way to know if you're being a good friend or even if someone is being a good friend to you is to go to that passage. I believe it's 1 Corinthians 13, 3 through 12 or something like that. But it's no, not 12. It's only like 4 or 5 verses. But it's in that passage, that chapter, and it says love is all these things, and it starts with patient. Change the word love to your name, or change the word love to the name of your friend that you're trying to see if they are a good influence on your life. And if the answer to most of those things is no, then maybe that's not somebody who it would be wise for you to spend time with. And again, I'm not saying that if they don't hit all of those categories that you should reject them and not hang out with them. I'm just saying let that factor into your decision. Is it wise for me to give this person influence? And it's 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, by the way. All right. And then real quickly, because I'm running out of time, a quick word about identity. In Romans 12:2, it tells us not to conform to the behavior and customs of the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Influence tells us we have to behave a certain way in order to be accepted or popular or loved or good enough or whatever else. And it's so easy to find our identity in the acceptance and the approval of our friends. As a matter of fact, I believe that it's absolutely impossible to not care what people think about you, specifically the people who are in your inner circle. And so I would never preach that and say, well, just don't. I used to, but I've learned a lot since then. I would never sit here and say, well, just don't care what anybody else thinks about you. No, you are always going to care. But don't find your identity or your worth or your value in the opinions of those people. It's going to matter to you. What the people you care about think about you is always going to matter to you. And that's okay. That's why we should be wise about whose opinion we let matter to us, right? Who we let in our inner circle. But don't ever find your identity in the acceptance or approval of anybody but Jesus. And then finally, a word about influence, just really quickly. These same principles and wisdom can be applied to other influences in our lives as well. Okay? Yes, when it comes to friends, we need to ask, in light of my past circumstances or past experiences, present circumstances, and future hopes and dreams, is it wise for me to be friends with this person? But we also need to ask, in light of my past experiences, present circumstances, and future hopes and dreams, is it wise for me to consume this content? Or is it wise for me to subscribe to this YouTube channel? Or is it wise for me to visit this website? Especially now in the time of quarantine and pandemic, the media that we consume is like our digital friends. Right? Like, I have a podcast that I listen to almost every day, and I feel like I know those guys. I've never met them a day in my life. If I cross them in the street, they'd be like, hey, there's a weird-looking guy. They don't know me, but I listen to them enough. They have influence over my thoughts and opinions because I gave 2 hours of my day every day to listening to their podcast. Apply these same things to when it comes to our real-life friends, to our digital friends, and the influences that we allow into our lives in other ways as well. All right, I have more stuff to share with you guys. We will squeeze it in to another week if need be. But again, I just want to reiterate, we're going to pray in a second, but I want to reiterate that one thing, and if you have some follow-up questions about it, please submit them. Your friends will influence you, so be careful who they are, okay? Choose them wisely. Your friends will influence you. So choose your friends wisely. Let's pray. Hey, God, I just want to thank you for the chance to all gather together, to hang out, to worship you, to spend some time in groups, to spend some time talking about relationships and friendships. God, I pray that you'd give each of us the strength and the courage and the wherewithal to go out and become the kind of friend who is honest and loyal and communicative and not a criminal and free-spirited and encouraging and trustworthy and patient and kind and so many other things, God. But I pray also that we would have the strength and the courage and the wherewithal to choose friends who influence us in a positive way, who build us up instead of tear us down, who push us forward instead of hold us back. And God, I pray for people in this room who tonight have realized, like, oh crap, I've got some friends I got to move away from. I pray that you would give them the courage to start that process, God, and that you would surround them with new friends and new influences to help support them during that time and help them to just continue to push forward and be willing to do what it takes to move, to step into the plan that you have for them and to not be influenced in a negative way any longer. God, I pray we would all just have a great week and come back together next week ready to learn even more about you as we have the dating conversation. And in your name we pray. We all said, amen. Hey, a couple quick things before you guys go real fast. If you've got questions, I'm actually going to move the bucket over here so that it's not with the sign-up sheets. But if you've got your questions that you wrote and you want to drop them in this bucket, do that. If you want to be part of fine arts, like Jennifer was talking, pretty much any artistic category you can think of, music, singing, writing, painting, drawing, preaching. What else am I forgetting? T-shirt design. Did you say pants? Dance. That makes much more sense than pants. All right, if you have some questions, ask Jennifer. She'll tell you if it's a category. Chances are it is. Sign up for that. Let us know you want to be part of it. We'll get you the date soon. Also, that online Bible study is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I didn't necessarily want it to be online a long time ago, but in light of all this stuff, we're going to do it at 4 o'clock on either Thursday or Friday afternoon, so I need you to sign up only if you would be interested. All right? Don't go over there and say, oh, Thursday works better for me, and then you never show up. All right? I'm not saying you have to be there every single week, certainly not that. But if you are legitimately interested in being part of that Bible study, sign up and then let me know which day, or if both days works the same for you, then let me know that. Okay? But I want to do this thing in a way that works, and I'm excited about it. But we're going to do it if we've got 3 people, or if we've got 13 people, or if we've got 30 people, we're going to do it. But just let me know what day works best for you. Holy smokes, I'm big on the screen right now. That's scary. Freaking me out there, Richard. All right, that is it. You guys are awesome. Sign up for that stuff. Drop your questions in this bucket. And if this was your first time and I didn't give you a connection card, don't leave until I give you one so I can give you some free stuff. I love you. You're awesome. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.